If you keep on training the model or training the agent and bot on it, that might help.
A little bit, and it depends on how you're using it. Okay, so I see that Vishali's joined. So Vishali, we were going to kind of focus on that kind of create, modify kind of approach. I think what would help first is for me to help differentiate some of the tools and know what tool set you're able to work with. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see it, because which tools you use also determines on what kind of thing you can do.
You
So
can
can you
see,
tell me when you can see it? Okay. So I think for the most part, you guys work in Copilot, right? This is what you're kind of used to, is the Microsoft one. So in your Copilot, can you see this CoWork tab, or can you just see or do you just have kind of chat?
I've usually used chat. I didn't observe that though.
Why don't you go
I can
to,
check.
I just want to make sure that's relevant, because otherwise I'll give you kind of like a view using my Anthropic Claude, which will give you a sense of it. But can you guys check, one of you check, go to the web page. So just type in like M365 Cloud, Microsoft, / like just chat or something, and or Copilot, and it should take you to a web page that looks something like this. This is my like professional one outside of my clients that I do, but I just want to know if you guys have this
We don't.
coworker, but you don't? Okay.
no, we don't have the CoWork.
Okay. So
Yeah, we only
that's
get the
gonna,
chat.
you have the chat? Okay. Eventually, they're going to deploy with this CoWork to you guys. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spend a couple minutes. I'm just going to explain to you the difference between chat and CoWork. Do you guys, first of all, do you guys know the difference between like chat, CoWork
Nope.
at
No,
all? Or-
and I have a question, John,
Yep. Shoot.
because I just received right now my new laptop, and
Yep.
when it was being configured, I was told that the Copilot comes in the new image.
Okay.
So, do you know like if this will come with chat and co-work or
That's the thing. It depends on your organization under it. So your organization can choose to enable this CoWork mode or not, because CoWork consumes more tokens and has a higher cost to it. So they're probably going to gradually roll it out. But I don't know. If Vishali can't see it right now, then I'm assuming that they haven't rolled it out at the client you guys are working at right now.
and something that I noticed is that I no longer huh, because I was using it actually yesterday, and I
Hmm.
couldn't find the opus anymore, but now that I open it, it's back there.
It's back. Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
happen sometimes where, yeah, it's a configuration thing. Or sometimes when you've just recently gotten some changes in your profile, sometimes somebody has to go in and enable it by default. But in general, like, and if you can't use the Opus one, this 5.5 Think Deeper is pretty good too. Like,
Yeah.
I okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to kind of explain the differences so that when you guys get co-work, it'll make more sense conceptually to you. And then I'll work through a use case with you using chat and using co-work just so you can kind of see the difference, okay? But to illustrate this, I'm going to actually show you. So this is my Claude. So you know how there's ChatGPT and then there's Claude and then there's Gemini and there's Perplexity. There's all these different models, right? So I primarily use Anthropic's Claude outside of the bank. But when you choose Claude in that chat session, you're using one of these, you're basically using this, okay? It just looks a little different because it's got a Microsoft wrapper over top of it, and it's running on, I think, Microsoft servers, but it's this same thing, okay? So this is the desktop tool. So in the desktop tool, I can do chat, I can do CoWork, or I can do code, okay? Chat's what everybody's used to doing. Chat is really more designed for, I have a question, or I need to do some research, or I need to have dialogue with something, almost like an assistant. Okay, it's not really designed to do work, meaning like produce a top grade artifact. It can do that depending on your prompt and your customization and everything else, but it's meant to have like a conversation. Okay, so chats are for conversations. Co-work is actually to do work. So let's go to my chat here. So if I am chat, I got all these different projects. I got Lisi, I got Learn AI, I got business financial coach, personal coach, BNS chat. So when I sometimes draft assets for clients, I make a project because I'll draft assets outside and I'll email them in because I can do it faster, more efficiently, and higher quality here. But when I email it into a client, then it stays to the client because then it becomes, confidential and it's related to them. So I create, these different ones for different aspects, and I can do things in these projects because in a project, okay, within chat, it holds certain context. So for example, this one here, If I go to details, so this one here for Lisi Chat, this is just a project for a memorization app that I was playing around with. I gave it a bunch of references. So this is kind of like that personalization when you do Microsoft Copilot, okay? But in a project, you can give it even more custom instructions. So think of it as I, as the user, have my personalization. Underneath that, I have all these folders, and each of these folders, I give a specific set of instructions that are applied to anything I do within that folder, okay? So those are projects. Now, the reason I explain projects is because you can have a project in chat or you can have a project in CoWork. CoWork projects, so you see over here on the right side, let's just go over, let me just kind of, let's go to my Facebook Marketplace one. Okay, so I had a bunch of stuff. I'm going to give you an example, okay? I had a bunch of stuff that I taken around with my different move. I'm not using anymore. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell this stuff. But it was going to take me a ton of time to research based on the images. What should I price this at? How do I write a description for Facebook Marketplace? Which images should I use? What's the pricing point? What other feature things should I put in? Like what tagline should I put in? All that kind of stuff. Because I've like never sold stuff on Facebook Marketplace. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a project. I created one originally in chat, and then eventually I created one in CoWork. And the CoWork one, the advantage is that I've got these instructions, right? So I'm saying, I actually asked it when I first started, I said, hey, this project is to help sell stuff on Facebook that are priced right and described well, to move things quickly, but also to, not have to have me drive all over the place to drop them off, that people would come to me, yada, 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 okay? So I gave it kind of a general thing. I said, now create a set of custom instructions for this project based on what I just told you, basically doing like a brain dump. It came back with a set of instructions. That instructions was, basically what I put into these custom instructions over here, okay? So it had some operating rules, it had some authoritative specs, and yada, yada, yada. Now, the advantage of doing in a CoWork project is that I can schedule jobs to run automatically. It has context because it actually has access to a folder on my computer. So it will do the thinking on the server, but it will create files that will save locally to my computer. It will also be able to go and look at those files rather than store those in memory. So one of the things in a chat is that when I'm talking to it, it can only have so much kind of, let's say, memory in that one chat session, and then it starts to have to compress it and do all this funky stuff, which sometimes you lose fidelity, okay? But in CoWork, it chunks it up. So context, right? Here's an example. Is everything stored in this folder on my local computer? You see all these memories, feedback, next shorthand, feedback, no repeating. So it's designed basically these files as like memories of instructions. So this is how do you do a shorthand description? This one is don't repeat things. This one here is only post one thing at a time, because it was giving me like 5 things to post with 5 descriptions. I'm like, no. Give me one at a time, because I don't want it to actually access my Facebook. I want to copy and paste it out and paste it into Facebook Marketplace. Okay. So I also uploaded, so it has all these kind of instructions and the kind of like mini guides, okay, that it stores in my project. And so it doesn't have to think and keep everything in short-term memory. It can just go and say, okay, what's my style guide? Okay, what do I do next? Okay, and then it has a running history of all the things that I've sold and things that I haven't sold. So it created an inventory, and it actually organized all the photos in my folder and called them like 1A, 1B, 1C for the first thing to sell. So I knew item number 1 to sell. These are the pictures, and yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
No, you finish out.
Okay, so the advantage of doing a CoWork is I'm actually having it do stuff, right? I could, in theory, connect this to my Facebook and have it post the things to sell myself. Knowing that things can hallucinate, don't trust it to do that. So I go and said, okay, you're going to create them one by one for me, and I'm going to copy them in. I'll give you an example of the last one I did. Okay, so this one here is, item 55, 3D Pro Maker, right? It says these are the photos that you want to upload, that it's already kind of named for me and numbered for me in that folder, so I know exactly where to go get them. This is the title. When it was first giving me the title, I said, I'll make it copyable, so I can just hit one little button like that, and I can paste it. Price, same thing, copy, paste. And it says, here's the category, here's the condition you should use, and then here's the description. I can just copy it. So literally, I copy a couple things, I paste it in Facebook Marketplace, and it's got this really good thing, and where to pick up stuff, and like the other, and it's got flags about things to do next, or the lowest acceptable price might be this, and then it goes and it updates a master tracker to say, okay, I've now kept in the tracker that this thing has been posted. Let me know when you want to do next. And I could just say posted next, and it would give me the next item. So I created a project that saves me I've got a bunch of things to sell. It would have taken me a ton of time. I spent 2 or 3 hours creating this project, and that probably saved me 10 times, the amount of time just doing it manually myself, and better quality. Okay. So this is an example of a project. So the reason I say this is that, Vishali, this is an example of what I think your use case is, where you want to kind of create files, combine files, like you want to do them with context in a certain thing. I find that CoWork is the way to be able to do that. Now, if the client can't let you use CoWork yet, then you're a little limited. You can try and pull it off in chat, but that's kind of the context. And I won't get into the code aspect. Vishali, do you have a question? Then I'll go back to Andrea. She has her hand up. Does that make sense, Vishali? Or?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, Andrea.
I have a couple of questions. So
Fire away.
for the AI to come back with what to say in your posting, you only provided the picture, or what is it that you provided?
Okay, so that's a great question. Let me go back to the project, and I'll go back and show you. First, you have to kind of create the project. So remember how, Andrea, we've talked about get the AI to help you create the AI. So what I did here is, create the prompt. So I started at the beginning and said, read Facebook marketing commands, MD files, then run status. So I had already, in a chat session, started this and realized, I want it to actually name files and reorganize files and images, okay? But I want to do it in a controlled way, in a folder. And when I did the research, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be using chat. I should be using CoWork. So I downloaded the version of this to my computer, and then I set up this Facebook project, and I gave it access to a folder. So this one here called Facebook Marketplace, it's actually in my Dropbox, but my Dropbox is synced to my local laptop. So I only gave it permission to that folder. And I said, okay, I'm going to take the MD file, which is basically the set of instructions for project, from chat that I'd created, because chat can do that. And I'm going to bring it over to CoWork, create a project. And so the first thing I did is I said, hey, read this thing here. And I said, okay, I can kind of see it. Oh, this is currently empty. A few things worth flagging, possible causes. And so then, how would you like to proceed? So then it kind of got down to where I said, you should be looking at this other folder. So again, I had to tell it the place to go. But as I did that, it basically showed me, here's the system and the files and a dashboard and da-da-da-da-da. And then I've gradually just basically, see how it says here, it told me of folders that it created. It said there's a ready to post folder and all this other stuff. So after I got to that, I'd kind of finished for the day. So I just stopped in that session. So let's go back to.
So,
go ahead.
So what did you put in your folder? Did you give access to the AI to to Facebook?
No. I gave it access to a folder on my local computer.
So, but how the AI will investigate what type of postings are out there just to give you?
So the first thing I did is I said, I through chat, I said, I want you to help me to sell a bunch of stuff on Facebook. I think I need to create a custom set of instructions to do this. I haven't done this before, but I have pictures of all the different stuff I want to sell. So it said, okay, let's create a system, like a system for this. And I said, okay, if I want you to research the pricing, create the descriptions, create the da-da-da-da, how should I do that? And it actually said, well, you should actually consider using CoWork, because it can take your images in, and the first thing I had to do is do the images and then kind of research, and I had to organize them and say these, you had to group them. So I took probably 150 pictures of all this different stuff. It grouped all those images by item and then said, I think these are the same thing. So this is going to be 1A, 1A, 1B, 1C. Next one's going to be 2A, 2B, 2C. And I had to kind of correct it on a couple little things, but then it got it all a system. It said, okay, so all these images, these are what they are. This, and then it said, I think this is what it is. Can you tell me if this is right? And sometimes it needed help. And I would actually, I think probably out of the 50 things, I probably had about 10, 20% I had to say, it's actually this. And I gave it a website and said, it's this. Here's the website. It went, oh, okay, I know what this is now. Great. Then when it had the images organized and it had a description of what the thing was, then it went and did all the research and said, I think you should price these at this. And I think this is a good description for it. And it did all that work and it saved it into basically like an Excel file, but it's actually Yeah, it's an Excel file to you and I, but to it, it's called an MD file, which is like an AI version, Markdown. You know what that is, right? So it had all that information. And then I said, okay, great. Every time I'm going to do this over a series of weeks. So I want every time you present me something to post and whatnot, I want to kind of review and approve it, and I want to manually copy it myself. And I said, but I also am going to do this over multiple days. What's the best way to do that? So I said, okay, well, I'm going to create this save file, which is going to be a status on everything. I'm going to have this other file, which is all the details of the stuff. And as you give me instructions, I will update these other files for you so I can go see it in Dropbox as well as the instructions, okay? So everything is contained in this one folder. So Andrea, it can't access other folders on my computer, and it can't access the web unless I allow it to. So even when
But
I tell it to
so
do
it's
something,
not to do the research, it's not accessing, it's just accessing the public
yeah, yeah,
social media. It's
it's
not
going off the,
accessing your profile.
no, no,
Okay.
it doesn't. Well, and again, I could say, go and post these on my Facebook, and it will go to my web browser, and it will ask me permission to access Facebook
hmm
and log in. And I can say yes, but because I just don't feel comfortable with that level yet, I was like, no. But so what I did is I said, but make this so easy a 5-year-old could post things.
Okay.
So that's why it gives me that little copy and paste thing. And I because what I would do is I would kind of give it feedback every time it kind of did something in the beginning, and then it got down to a science. And it also, one time it said, hey, we've posted 5 things today. Generally, Facebook doesn't like it when you post more than 5 things because it might think you're a reseller or something like that. So we should probably stop for the day. I was like, okay. And I stopped. And little things like it said, for pickup or drop off, like I spend time in different areas in Scarborough, I spend time in Whitby, I spend time up north. And so depending on when I'm selling the thing, I might be having it picked up at one place or I might have it being picked up in another place. Sometimes I've had to meet people in Toronto. So again, the reason I go through this is to illustrate chat conversations generally. You can create things, but it's not designed for multimodal or multi-step or complex work, okay? CoWork is exactly designed for that because the thing with the AIs is that they can only hold so much in memory. And as soon as you have like multiple things that are involved, it gets much more complex and it kind of has a hard time keeping that in short-term memory, just like human beings do, right? But the project has it all organized. So like, let me see if I can
And
toggle
the
over
other
to.
question that I had for you, John, is that
Mhm,
you started mentioning that you had different projects for different companies and that you were giving it access to a specific folder. So
mhm.
it's within that project, right? Like
Yeah,
if you are just discussing with the AI and do like a research, it wouldn't access your other project folders because you have
no,
not given it permission to do
correct.
that. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
got it.
So for example, I'm showing you my actual computer, okay? In my computer, I have it sync with my Dropbox, which is in the cloud, okay? In my Dropbox, I have this Facebook Marketplace folder. I double click on that. It's got, these different subfolders that it decided was the best way to make. And I was like, okay, sure. It has like a system files, which has these different like in sets of instructions that it needs and that it kind of updates as it gets. Like for example, marketplace commands, that's where I tell it, it knows when I type next that I've already posted something and I want it to show me the next one. Okay. Or if I say, I changed the price of this one and I sold it for lower or higher, then it will go and update the other files and it kind of stores those in commands, right? And this guide is if anybody wanted to do the same thing, I could email them a copy of this guide and they could work with CoWork to do the same thing. Like actually Ben wanted to do, he had a bunch of stuff he had to sell. So I sent him this Facebook market guide and he used his to kind of do something similar. Okay. And then there's other files. I know it's just, it just saves a lot of
I'm
time.
laughing
And
because I've seen them posting many things lately, and
yeah,
I have
yeah.
never seen him active in Facebook ever. So it was
Probably
funny.
because he might be using this now, Andrea, because again, it does it based on pictures. So like if I go into this Facebook marketplace and I look at photos raw, okay? So this is where I pulled a whole bunch in, right? It just showed some images. There's a different one here that needed verification and stuff. And then it goes ready to post. I think this is where, yeah. So here, 40Q, like all these ones that are 40 are all the same item that again, initially step by step, I had to I put the pictures just in, and it was like, I think these are the same thing. And I had to say yes, no, medium, slow. And so it created all these different groupings of images. So it knows, and it will tell me, hey, John, we're posting this thing, and this is item number 40. Go get those images and paste them in. Here you can see, like, this is files that it had created when I was going through it, like, and everything's here, right? So these are all the different kind of supporting files, so that if ever I needed to go back a step or something was wrong, I have full, traceability. We only got another 5 minutes, but the other one I'll say is, so for example, Premiere, this is another client of mine. This is some vibe coding stuff, and this is one projects folder I have. I have other, things as well, but I do this to show you that, this CoWork, you could do the same thing when you get it. Or if it's easier to do something outside using some of those tools like a CoWork and email it in because it's non-confidential, that's a lot of time what I'm doing now. Like when I draft something, I have a lot of stuff that I draft for different groups. And so when I'll kind of put it together, I'll email it in, and it just saves time because the tools that I have are a little more advanced. And again, anybody can download CoWork or Anthropic, whatever, but eventually you guys can get access to this CoWork. And this CoWork, you'll be able to do a task, hopefully have like a folder that you can put it in a new project. But you can see here, there's an example, right? You can plan, you can do multiple things in parallel. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
We only have access to chat. And when we were on an RFP process, just thinking of
RFP process.
The RFP process, we received tons of data that it was like, and it was very technical data, so it was very heavy to read it. So I used the Copilot to analyze that data and just synthesize it for me, and so I could just complete the scoring that I was asked to complete. What I noticed is that some of the answers, when I was asking it to give me the why certain score, it was giving me answers that were not in the data that it was provided. So and even though the instruction was to not search the web, it's just within this data that I am allowing you to search. Research.
And so did you use Opus when you were doing it, or did you use?
No, I didn't know about Opus. Yeah.
I know, but okay. So this is one of the learnings, right? If you were to use this ChatGPT by default, it would be kind of the quick response. It won't think it through things as well, and it will naturally hallucinate more the older the version of the model is that you use. Opus is designed for code. The reason I like Opus, Andrea, is because it's very systematic. It's very programmatic, right? Like it's not designed to give you things that it doesn't know, because it's more of like a code generator. But I like Opus because of that, because it's very strict, right? So it won't do that as much. So I'll bet you if you reran that using Opus, and if you had in your personalization, never hallucinate, never, if you do fabricate something, make sure to tell me you fabricated something. You have to give it that level of personalization, and you have to embed that in your prompt too, right? To be very explicit, right? Like of what we wanted to do. Like I use it a lot of time to draft maybe an email, right? Like, so here's an example: generate an executive and concise brief of emails. And this is that regular scheduled job that runs every day for me. And chat can do this. It looks through my calendar, it looks through my chats that it has access to, and it kind of provides me that summary. Now I have taken Excel files and I've said, take this column of this information in this Excel file, put it into a new version of this other Excel file based on this joiner. So you know how you can do VLOOKUPs and stuff in Excel? You can do that in this as well. Or you can say, okay. So that's an example where like you can do work in chat, but when it comes to multi-steps and more complicated work, it needs it broken down, right? And so it's funny.
I haven't done it in chat. I have done it directly in the Excel file.
Sure,
I have used the Copilot in the Excel, and I have told in the prompt, I need to do this, and then it runs it for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'll probably, I don't know how that works out for you. If it works out well, then that's the way to do it. But I think that's where, Vishali, again, I come back to, I know we're kind of at time, your use case, if you're trying to analyze things or you're trying to get feedback on something, you're trying to summarize it, chat's always the best. If you need to kind of combine things or create new things, it'll be okay, but you want to make sure that, you choose that, ideally that Opus model, and you give it very clear instructions. Like it's still a computer at the end of the day, right? So if you say, combine this and this or analyze this and this. You have to kind of like almost like work with it before it actually does the thing for it to do it well, has been my experience. Does that make sense?
This is, yes, this makes sense. I don't know if you spoke about this before or not, but the SharePoint one. So many times there's been like this repetitive tasks to be automated.
That's CoWork.
Work, okay. So
Yeah.
from Outlook, kind of just put it up in the SharePoint or the other way around, or if you want kind of auto update every week.
You can go, if you
Mhm.
keep the same chat session and you created something, you can go back into it and say, hey, okay, let's update that with the following, pop, 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 pop. And it will update that file that it might have created before if it still has it in memory, or you re-upload the file it created last time for you and say, it has the context, no problem. See you later, Andrea. Michelle, if you re-upload that file, it'll carry some of the context from the prior chat session. The challenge is that it can't do a ton of steps, right? So it can do analysis, it can do a couple things, but it's not designed to do like, 5 different steps.
Yeah.
And it only has so much that it can kind of store in memory. So like in Outlook, there's a lot of things you can do in Outlook with Copilot, not just review. Like give me an example of one, a task.
Thing is the Caribbean project, for example, they like every Friday, they kind of want the status report to be stored on the SharePoint. That was what it is. Right. So I was thinking,
Yeah.
hey, if there's any way to kind of automate that. That's all. Simple ask, but I was just,
I think for
can
that,
I just get kind of automatically do, because it's a
probably,
repetitive task for me.
yeah, I don't think it can save something for you because then it would have to have access to your computer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If it's doable or not, that was the question I had.
I don't think so.
But
I mean, you could
yes.
research it. And again, what I would do is I would ask it and say, hey, I'm trying to do this task. I only have access to Microsoft Copilot. But Microsoft Copilot has access to my OneDrive and to my this and to my that. How would you recommend that I do this? And ask it the best way to automate that where you have to do the fewest amount of touches. And it will tell you, like and it might say, I can't do that in chat. You really need CoWork. Do you have CoWork? Like that's how I realized I should make that Facebook Marketplace one. Is that it said, really, this is getting, multimodal and and you should really be doing this CoWork. Have you tried downloading the app? I'm like, nope. So I downloaded that and I was like, oh, this is really good. And then I started creating projects for, like, for example, I have one client that needs
Jonathan, I have to. The team is waiting for me.
No problem. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Like that's the entire team is there on the other call.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have to jump. All
And
right.
if you
Yeah,
need
we'll
some help,
speak
just
maybe
book
in
some time.
office or something. I will catch up with you. Okay.
No problem. Sounds good.
Bye bye.